You should put a filter on yourself like the lawyer did there in that video. Yes. Cat filter.
Jody, I was able to see it live on YouTube.
Is it now?
I have to it appears to be.
Agenda.
I see Keith on YouTube.
Wait, so then.
Yeah, it looks like the meeting was ended. It's like it was 3-minute, 20-second live.
Wow, that was a long one. Okay, so there's another one going right now. Can people see that? That's a long one.
Probably shouldn't have stopped it. You should be able to see it now.
Was working for me.
Yeah,
and
I have it live, but it's showing the videos available. So you must have linked the video.
it took a couple refreshes when I did it and it worked fine.
Yeah, I see it now. It is live.
Okay, I think we can.
Perfect. Now we just have to wait for Ryan to come back.
Mr. Chairman.
As well as Hans here. I mean, that's a, no, what's this?
Yes,
Oh.
Hans is on.
Wow. Okay, Hans is good, then we can, oh, let's get Lindsay in the building. Okay, great. So everyone can hear us now? Amanda?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. We're getting some feedback here.
I think that's YouTube playing in the background.
No, that was her phone.
That was my phone.
Okay, great. So, everybody, thanks for bearing with me. We had some YouTube stuff going on. We got that fixed. I'll call the meeting to order. As of earlier today, I heard that Heidi was excused, Chris Petrus is excused, and Tucker is excused. So that leaves with us myself, Trish, Hans, and Mark Strong. And they're all on here. It's already been verified. We do have minutes to approve from March. Can I have a motion for those?
So moved.
Moved by Strong,
I'll second Kerr.
second by Kerr. Any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you so much. Appointments, we do not have any. And then we'll get into committee reports real quick. Before we do, we only have 2 resolutions tonight. We do have an executive session. Should be a quick one after. I don't foresee us having anything after that we come out and vote on. So we have that. And then I know that Keith has an item for us to call attention to as well. And I have an update on a few things, but well, I'll do the update right now before committee reports. There's an IT steering committee that I'm on, as well as Mary Beth Leeson, Lynn Marinelli, Jim Orman, Paul Borman, and a few other staff that help in IT related matters. What that was originally created for was to help kind of guide IT through legislative things that they were facing. If you remember, the printers were one of them, and a few other things that were kind of a long-term strategic initiatives of the legislature. So I think that committee has served its useful life, and we'll start bringing that back into that information back into the fold for GovOps, as opposed to having kind of a separate for that information. And I can always meet with Paul if he has questions or comments or anything like that. But for now, there will be no more IT steering committee for the time being, and we'll see how that works out. Secondly is an update on the IT hiring committee that met today for the first time. I thought it went really well. That's composed of Trish Kerr, Mark Strong, Chris Palermo, Jody Nickerson, and Lisa Lippold, and myself. And any legislator was invited to partake on that. Those are the only people that responded or accepted to participate. And basically what we're doing is reviewing all of the applicants and their resumes for the position of IT director. We have to whittle down that list slowly but surely. We had to establish a tool in order to kind of rank and rate the applicants that we have. We're going to collate all that information and try to get down to a couple of the better candidates and then present them to the legislature. And Mark Strong had that as, you know, kind of a great idea, was to say, hey, let's get the two best candidates in front of the legislature, get them interviewed, and let the legislature kind of pick one and go from there. So it will be a process. It's not going to be immediate. Give us some time if you would, but I did want to give everyone an update on where we stand and kind of what's going to happen going forward. And then finally is Keith Batman. I have a note here that he wanted to talk about ethics policy. I know he's been working on it with Chris Palermo, and he has some discussion surrounding that. So I'll, before we get into committee reports, I'll kind of have him go over that and then go from there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I won't go into any detail here, but there is a group that's been working on our ethics policy since I think probably October as a result of a couple of things. One, it hadn't been updated. When we had our last year's audit, they suggested that we needed to update the ethics policy and a couple of other things. It has taken a little longer than I had hoped, quite frankly, but the better to make sure that it's a good product than a fast product. So at this point, that committee is, by the way, me, Trish Kerr, Heidi Nightingale, Tim Lattimore, Jason Cuffs, and David Connolly, Rich Graham, and then the staff support has been Brittany Massey. So we've been working on it. We have what I hope is the final meeting next week. The reason I want to mention that tonight is we will be sending that out for the committee's review prior to next month's meeting, and hopefully well in advance. So if you could have a look at it when it comes by, and if you have any questions or comments, let me, Brittany, or Ryan know, then we can make any kind of adjustments that need to be made. I am anxious that it gets through committee, gets to the legislature, and gets approved and in place. At this point, technically, we don't have a ethics committee for the county, and of course, it is required. So that's it. I just want to let you know it's coming. When it does come, please look at it and respond with any questions or comments you may have. So that's it. So thanks a lot, Ryan.
Not a problem. Just so I'm aware, you'll send that out to the legislature, you know, when you kind of get it finished and updated, and
Yes.
they'll have their time to comment, and then we'll review it the policy in next month for government operations.
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
wonderful. All right,
Great.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have Tim with a question.
Well, I don't know whether we want to debate this draft proposal, but Keith, there was some mention of, I know that our ledge has term limits, which is, very unique. After 12 years of serving on the board, we leave. There's people who, agree or disagree with that, but is there some language in the new edition that indicates that former legislators cannot participate in any business with the county? Or
Yeah, and you always see that when it comes. What it says, there is a section that says, no, it's not any business with the county. There's a section that says if you've served in a policy making capacity as either a legislator or as a senior department person, there are limitations to what you can do in terms of outside employment that have a relationship to that former work and that might financially benefit you. The idea is that if there's things you did while you had service, where you in service to the county, that you may not take advantage of that to make money for I think it's a year afterwards. There is a process in the ethics policy that allows that to be set aside. So it's not an absolute prohibition. It just suggests that if you're in certain positions of policy making, that you need to take a step back for a year to ensure that no one is acting unethically in terms of using their previous position. But there is a way around that. So it's not a prohibition in the sense you absolutely can't do it.
is that all our subdivisions that we sponsor, like the college, or like if somebody wanted to be a professor at the college, they?
No. This is a policy only for the county. And it doesn't have anything, it has no impact on anyone that has a relationship indirectly with the county. Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah, and this is an example of something. People need to look at that. And if it can be modified, all of this can be changed. So it's, these are exactly the kinds of things we need to look at carefully and decide how we're going to do going forward. We need to have kind of some guidelines for what we would consider appropriate and ethical behavior, but at the same time, not limit things so much that it inhibits someone's ability to carry on with their life, their profession, and their community responsibilities. So, I mean, your point is a good one, Tim. That is that the line is a difficult one. We need to look at it to make sure we're drawing it in the right place. And one of the things that I say consistently too is that we've looked at policies from, I don't know, St. Lawrence County, Wayne County, Tompkins County, Onondaga County, Cortland maybe, and we looked at a lot of policies, as you know, Tim, and tried to pull all of those together. But it's also important to understand that once this is implemented and we go through, it makes sense that every 1 or 2 years that the committee itself reviews how it's working and brings recommendations and suggestions to the legislature, saying that this really hasn't worked as we had hoped. We need to modify it. So this is not the end and be all, but it's an important thing to get in place. And until we discover that it doesn't work or some part of it doesn't work, it will be our guiding principle.
I'm saying that as I was on the planning board, no compensation or anything for 10 years for the county. And I don't want to see our boards, all of a sudden somebody's serving on the board and they can't, after they get off the board, they're restricted from ever doing anything with the county again. I mean, it's.
Oh, of course not. And all the restrictions are for 1 year anyway. It's 1 year, and there's plenty of opportunity for exceptions. Yeah. No, I agree. But I don't think we disagree at all on this.
I just want it not to be restrictive, because a lot of people don't want to enter into politics or serve on boards because it's very restrictive. And, you know, I just don't want to see us hampered by not getting a nice qualified person because, well, you've got a business in the private sector and, you know, somebody could say, well, you have a presumed or anyways, but
Yes, right.
go back to the meeting tonight was in jeopardy because we might not have a quorum. And I've suggested that this board take up, if somebody's in the room who's a legislator, that they should be able to substitute for somebody so that we can conduct business here, especially under pandemic circumstances. There should be some language in there in our government ops that says, you know, boards can be as of the meeting that night. I mean, if half of us come down with COVID, you know, you want to be able to conduct business with the people who aren't infected.
All right. thank
Just
you,
a
Kenny.
suggestion.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see that next month and kind of go from there. And we'll get into committee reports. Cheryl and Kate, I think I saw Kate on just a moment ago.
I'm on.
Yeah, go for it.
There's not a whole lot on top of the report that we put in, which was kind of a summary of the last 2 or 3 months, which were basically a cleanup in our office of the post-election activity. Obviously, we've had the petition process over the last few weeks. We have 8 primaries. They're all Republican primaries. I don't know. Those people just don't seem to be able to get along. But anyway, we're all one big happy family. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so anyway, what we have, Cheryl and I have talked this over, and the one complication that we have with this early voting is that there is certainly no reason for us with this few primaries, and most of them are out in the county. It's out in Mentz, Montezuma, Troop, Niles, Ira, Sterling. Early voting is only going to be at the Board of Elections. We are not going to have sites in the north and sites in the south. We are legally able to just have one early voting site. So early voting will be conducted at our office. And will be the normal, 9 days of early voting. There are 2 primaries in legislative districts, one in the city of Auburn in District 13, and one in District 3, which is Mentz, Montezuma, and Troop. Those are the ones that we expect the largest turnout. But primaries being what primaries are, we will be shocked if we get more than 30% turnout anywhere. So we're going to have early voting only at the Board of Elections, and then the regular voting, all of the usual places will be open. And we will, be able to have them staffed fairly lightly because of it only being one party primary in all those places. So we should have a big money saver as far as primaries are concerned. Also, good news out of the state budget that there is an appropriation for additional grants for local boards of election, and we're anticipating that it will probably be worth $60,000 or $70,000 to us locally for additional equipment or needs for early voting. So it ought to help us out a little bit as far as getting some more updated equipment in the office, since we're we're dealing with the prospect of future larger turnouts for absentees. So we're trying to figure out what kinds of things we need in the office to make it more efficient. That's about it.
All right, great. Thank you, Kate. Any questions from legislators? I have Tim.
Oh, I would have been disappointed if Tim didn't have a question.
Well, I think Republicans do get along sometimes. I mean, Mr. Pinckney and I get along sort of.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. And, but I was remiss not to mention the passing of your brother the other day when I saw you out to dinner, and I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Any other questions for Kate or the Board of Elections? All right, seeing none, thank you so much. We will move on. Next up is Sheila Smith. I think Amanda's on.
I am. Sheila has submitted her report. If there's any questions, just please let me know.
Any questions for Amanda? I know that Amanda, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to the updating the boards and the agency members and terms, but I know that's always kind of a big project to do.
Yeah, we're kind of going over making sure we get anybody that's expired. Let the heads of those agencies know that they need to submit new nominations. Just trying to make sure all the terms are lined up. Get any bylaws that might have been outdated, updated, and they need to be put on the website as well. So yeah, it's a project.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Amanda, clerk of the ledge? And if you do, just kind of speak up too, because I might not always be able to see your hand or your face on here. Seeing none, thank you so much. Next up is going to be Chris Palermo, who is joining us in chambers tonight. Chris, you are a go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Initially, I had intended to provide the committee with a couple documents, one of them being a report out of our practice management software, illustrating the files that we have opened in the month of March. Of course, I circulated it within our office ahead of time. You pointed out we've got some configuration issues yet. Holding that for this month. Hopefully next month, we'll be able to have a similar report showing you what was open in April. I think it'll give you a good sense of the volume of work that we've been doing. I also had another document that Rich Graham prepared. It was a memorandum of law, just a typical, it was an order to show cause filed by an inmate, and Rich's response. I thought I'd share with the committee just so that legislators who maybe haven't been around quite as long might get a sense of, the amount of research and work.
Is that Girl Scout troop down in Moravia? Didn't know if he was aware that was happening today. I'll give him the message. And we'll
Okay.
So you got the squawk box on.
The type of work.
Does that make us muted here?
No.
Okay. Go for it, Chris.
Okay, aside from that, that's really it. So, I mean, the report wouldn't have any matter names, it's just too difficult to try to redact. For example, Brittany does a lot of work on the juvenile delinquents. We file them by the respondent's name, the juvenile's name. Certainly, that can become a public document. But it does give a list, how many juvenile delinquents that we dealt with just in this month alone. So that's it.
Okay, any questions for Chris? I do have Tim. I see you. Hold on one second. And again, we did mute everyone. So if you do have to speak, you'll have to unmute yourself first. And that was just because we were getting a lot of feedback from people that didn't have their mics muted. All right, hearing none, I do have Tim with a question. Go for it.
In regards to the legalese of opening up our county office building, do we have a time frame as to when we're gonna open this building back up to the public and
I'm not aware of any legally mandated date that we're required to or prohibited from opening by. I think that would be, that decision would be made between the legislature, the health department, particularly Kathleen Cuddy, and any directives, future directives that come from the governor's office.
but I think other counties are open now and
So there are probably various states of access to the public, depending on which county you go to, what their numbers look like. You know, I would really defer to Kathleen Cuddy on that to get a sense of, you know, where are we in Cayuga County? You know, Lewis County, for example, you know, sparsely populated, they may have a whole different set of concerns than we do here. You know, we're right in the middle of a city. I don't know, Mr. Lattimore, I don't have that answer.
well, anyways, it's good to see you in chambers.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, and I would, you know, feel free to bring that up with the Health and Human Services Committee. I think I meet next week and see what they say. You know, it's worth a shot.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Any other questions for Chris? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much. Chris, it's nice to see you too.
Thank you.
Next up is Sue Dwyer. Sue, are you on by chance?
I don't see her.
Okay, all right. I don't know if anyone has any questions regarding her report. I know that her staff is up to full speed as far as I've understood it, and doing well. She is still doing and going to continue to do by appointments only in the DMV. And she thought that long term that was a good strategy while at least the building is closed. And that was because of the spacing concerns, and that it actually is easier on her staff to have slots available where people can come in I think she has it down to every 15 minutes or 10 minutes now, and sign up and get right in and get right out. And it's efficient, more efficient, I think she was saying. So I do appreciate that angle and information, and we'll wait to hear from her with anything else. Does anyone have anything for Sue Dwyer that we can pass along? All right, hearing none, we will move on to IT.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also wanted to say thank you for all your work and Trish's work, as well as the folks from the various departments on the IT steering committee. It's very helpful to have the support and your input throughout the process. So look forward to serving government ops directly and working with you on that. So again, thank you. So in my report, we've obviously have Jody Nickerson as a great example today. She literally spent all day working on getting Zoom up and running for this meeting and did a terrific job. Obviously, it's a learning curve for us, but I think that's going to be a good tool in our quiver, if you will, or in our tool shed to help the county with high quality video conferencing. And I think the Zoom is going to be a great option for us. Daniel Lovell, also from the team, has been working with legislative support, talking with legislators and helping them through any technical challenges they're having. Active projects in the report, shared some active projects. I don't want to dwell on any, but if you have any questions about any, I'd be happy to work with you. The mental health building, we've upgraded about half of that building so far, and we expect to complete that next week. And what we're seeing there is better performance on video conferencing and just general throughput for the staff there. Again, keep in mind that the mental health building folks are using telemedicine, and the infrastructure just wasn't ready for everyone in the building to to do telemedicine at the same time. But we're getting there, and it should be completely working next week. So we look forward to that. Continue to work with building the Board of Elections on security. And we also are performing Munis upgrades and updates. We're doing one tonight, in fact. And we continue to work with Tyler, the manufacturer of Munis, to ensure that our system is up and running and working fine, and working closely with the Treasurer's Office on that. 911, we have received the equipment for the new 911 phone system. That's from Entrado. The equipment arrived this week and is now in storage and ready to go when Entrado comes to install it. And we have folks working on that and dedicated to that project. We're also working with the jail on the new Black Creek jail management system, and we're working with them as well on that project, and that will start happening in the next month or so. Those are the highlights. We've also had a high number of audits this month. We have a financial allocation review, as well as a couple of audits from the Treasurer's Office has shared with us, and that includes IT questionnaires as far as security and best practices and operational duties and things like that. So, so those have been on our mind lately. Anyway, thanks again.
Okay, so I know we'll probably have some questions for Paul. Before we get into that, I do want to say a few words about the legislative meeting. There were some technical difficulties with that, and there were some legislators that were displeased by that. And you know, when we talk about it, I've had conversations with Jody, with Paul. As far as I understand it, it's kind of a twofold thing. The first part is that the owl that we use to broadcast out of chambers was having some type of issue. It appeared to be dropped at one point and have bad connections that were faulty inside of it. And then getting some of the equipment inside of chambers upgraded and updated was a second component of that. Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to add in here from you know, misapplying. And then third was 8x8 was not performing well, and I guess it's been very spotty. Yesterday, I was in the county office building today at 10 o'clock. We had a meeting that was on 8x8. Frankly, it was terrible in terms of that service, and I had to make a call at that point to try to switch over to Zoom to try something else that might work better. As far as I can tell, this has been going wonderful, except for the minor issue at the beginning of getting it streamed to YouTube. But you know, I think that it's a work in progress, just like anything else. I know that having Jody on site during the entire meeting tonight has been very beneficial, including not only just the start of the meeting, getting those technical issues hammered out and able to get it started. But then if anything does go wrong during the meeting, she's able to kind of be on site and help with that as well. So it is a work in progress. Now, with that said, you know, there are always improvements that can be made. I think that we can work with Paul to be a bit more hands-on with those and see how we can always improve not only the legislative experience, but the county experience for all employees. And so one of the issues that we were working on in the steering group, which I want to bring to the legislature's attention just tonight and have Paul give a small overview, is the wiring throughout the county building. And he mentioned a little bit about the wiring over at mental health. And so, you know, I'm going to use his analogy, and Paul, you know, feel free to correct it too, is that you had all of this kind of old infrastructure in place, these lines that support the internet. You know, it used to be like, let's say it was, the lines are set up for, I don't know, 100 megabits, for instance, and they're trying to make a gig of data go through the same line. It's just, it doesn't work well when you have all of that data trying to go through, and it's creating bottlenecks within the system. So, you know, that's part of the thing here, is trying to get that wiring upgraded to, you know, more recent technology, and that way it would provide better overall usability for our county employees. You know, Paul, feel free to add on to that if you would, about some of the stuff that you maybe are planning on or looking at surrounding some of that upgrading.
Sure. Let me speak to that a little bit. So first of all, the places that have the worst wiring in the county office space include the county office building and the public safety building. There are other buildings that have very old wiring that doesn't meet standards. And a great, you know, just to build on your analogy a little bit, Mr. Foley, you know, it's the equivalent of trying to take 10 lanes of traffic down a 2-lane road. So it's when, you know, with things that are very data intensive, such as video conferencing, it just does not work well if you're running at the wrong speeds. The county, the work being done at the mental health building is not replacing the cabling yet. It is simply replacing the network switches that connect the cabling. The county at the mental health building, that was the bigger problem, was the switches. And so we've upgraded the switches so that they can support the higher speeds, and as well as the connection back to the county office building. So those things are what we've done. And that's what we're working on right now. We're not replacing any cabling at the mental health building at this point. We are working with, in fact, Jody is going to be working with our cabling vendor and the buildings folks, the facilities folks, to look at both the county office building and the public safety building, and look for ways we can cost effectively upgrade the infrastructure there, the cabling it's specifically. So we have layers. IT is like an onion. It's layers and layers of things. So we have cabling, we have switches, we have routers, we have firewalls. All of those parts and pieces need to be upgraded and maintained, as well as our servers and software. So the cabling has not been maintained over the years, and needs to be, we need to consider replacing it. So that's, I don't want to keep dwelling on that, but that's what we're looking at, all of that. But we're changing out what we can change out right now from a cost point of view.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
I think it is. It's, you know, it's a good primer. You know, that was one of kind of the major things coming out of the steering committee, and you know, it's good to start talking about it here and kind of just get it on people's minds, especially because IT touches so many departments within the county. And, you know, especially too with trying to figure out what we're going to do with capital planning projects, improvements to the county office building. The wiring kind of goes hand in hand with that. So, you know, it's good to get more to light and see where we can go. With that said, do we have any questions for Paul? I do have Tim. Timmy.
Paul, you're very good at what you do, and I appreciate it. We need a grant writer at the county in the worst way. I mean, there's so much governmental money that's available for big major projects. You know, wiring all the different firehouses that we have, the broadband that's coming down. I mean, we should have something ready to go with IT to hook the college and you know, really dig into the government pockets that are loaded right now. We should have 3 or 4 grant writers on staff, loading up all the different projects. Excuse me. But one of the questions I had in regards to, excuse me, do we have any more? The,
Talking a lot. Tim. I don't know why. Okay.
the recent copier situation, and I was involved in some of those discussions with the copiers. Toshiba and Xerox were competitors, and we got some good pricing out of it. But in regards to the shipping of the new Toshibas, did we have to pick that cost up, Paul, or was that included in the bid?
That was included as far as I know. Toshiba included all the installation services and the cost of delivery in their package.
Okay, could you check on that for me?
I'll confirm that, but thank you for the question. It's a good question.
Yeah, but right now, the biggest thing this county should be doing is hiring some grant writers and going after major bridge improvements and other infrastructure. And as President Biden had indicated, that broadband and communication is we should be dipping into the federal pocket, not the local counties.
Okay. All right. Well,
Thank you.
all right. Any other questions, comments for Paul? Things that people have concerns about. Okay. And Paul, I thank you. I know that this Zoom meeting tonight was kind of last minute. We just started it this morning. I think it was able to kind of get up and running thanks to Jody. I've been in communication with her for most of the day, just seeing how this was going, and it's looking like, knock on wood, that it's turning out all right. And we had talked about in that steering committee is how we could test out moving over to the Zoom platform full time, and what that would entail. I know that you said that there might be a cost associated with that, so we were hesitant, I think, at some point. Maybe it's time to start looking into that more thoroughly, and if that's the case. So, we'll kind of go from there and see how it goes.
Yep, we have, IT has some licenses that we've bought for Zoom. We can buy, obviously we have to look at our budget, but we can buy more to expand it. And I believe you're right. The quality seems to be a lot better than 8x8. And I was sharing with Jody and the IT team today that I'm on different vendors' video conferences mostly throughout the whole day. And we've had experienced, intermittent problems with all of them, including Zoom. So it is kind of an internet-wide thing. I think we've seen a lot more issues this year than last year with I think more people are using these video conferencing systems. And I know that all of the vendors are doing upgrades right now to accommodate capacity. So it is, I think it is kind of an interim thing, but I think it makes sense to have a couple of, like I said, a couple of tools in the shed, both 8x8 for video conferencing and Zoom. So we'll look at licensing with you and see what we can afford to expand.
Right. Okay. I have a question from Tim before we move on.
Yeah, Paul, one more. The cybersecurity is huge. And is there any way that we could have our system not be in the cloud and maybe use some of that federal money to secure our system?
Yeah, so we are basically not in the cloud at all, other than a few minor things. There are some areas where the cloud is it's quite a discussion. So I welcome a conversation about it. It is more secure to put things in the cloud than it is to have things on premise, just because the resources that are available from a qualified vendor in the cloud is going to have much more layers of security and much more a much greater size staff maintaining the security than the county can afford. So it's my belief that that it's, and nothing is a silver bullet, nothing is a one-stop shop, but my belief is that the strength is going to be, if we want to secure things, then we need to move towards the cloud, not away from it. And that's kind of proven out, because all the systems getting hacked today are largely on-premise systems. It's not as much the cloud systems. Periodically it is, but if you look at the numbers of hits, I'd be glad to bring the FBI in. They come in and speak to organizations such as the county or Homeland Security to talk about the differences. But no matter what we pick, we need to make sure that we're following the best cybersecurity practices.
Well, I mean, all right, thank you.
Sure.
My only hesitation with you bringing the FBI in here is they might lock Tim up at that point.
Chairman is so funny.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, any other questions for Paul before we move on? If not, thank you, Paul. I appreciate your report.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next is going to be Lindsay from the vet's office.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. The report has been submitted. Does anyone have any questions?
For Veterans Office,
Say that again?
asking for any questions for you, if anyone has
Oh,
any.
thank you.
I have a question, if that's all right.
Sure.
Hi, Lindsay. I was just wondering how the vaccinations are going with veterans. Do you have a sense of that in terms of the population? And
Actually, they're going. According to the veterans that have gone over and utilized the VA and their vaccinations, it has gone very smooth, and they're very impressed. And I'd say we transport probably 2 to 3 a day over to get their vaccinations. And the VA has actually opened it up where the veteran spouses can go as well. And the veteran doesn't even need to be enrolled in the VA healthcare. They just have to provide proof of service, and they're also getting vaccinated. So it's wonderful, actually.
that's great.
Yes.
Just a follow-up. I was just curious if there been any discussions about doing those vaccines at the local VA clinic, or is it all primarily in Syracuse?
It's primarily in Syracuse, only for the fact that I don't believe the outpatient clinic has the resources available. And that's where we encourage them to either take transportation through the county or take themselves and their spouses to be vaccinated. The last I heard, they were still on the Moderna vaccination.
Okay, thank you.
Would a veteran be excluded once vaccine opens up from getting the vaccine in this county?
No.
Right. So as the access is improved, there would be the ability to be vaccinated here, I would assume.
That is correct. But it's like when a veteran enters into the VA healthcare, they don't allow the outpatient clinics the access to enroll in the VA. They have to use the actual VA that they're a part of, or the catchment area of that, which would be Syracuse. And a lot of veterans come in and they misconstrue us with the VA. Well, you're VA, you should have this resource. No, we're actually county employees, and we don't have this resource. Neither does any of the other counties around. They all have to utilize the main hub, which would be Syracuse in our area.
Any other questions for Veterans Office? Thank you so much for your report.
Thank you. And I'd like, if you don't mind, I'd like to include that we are in the process of trying to update the Veterans Advisory Board to get that updated, and looking into the Lowe's grant, Ms. Kerr. I'd like to chat with you outside of government operations and discuss that further, if you don't mind, sooner than later.
I'll call you tomorrow. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And Jessica has been extended until September.
All right. All right, yeah, that grant, Lindsay, is what, the $100,000 possibility that Lowe's is doing for veterans
Yes,
services?
yes, yes.
All right.
It's a wonderful opportunity. If we can make that happen, that would be wonderful. Ms. Kerr has some great ideas for to utilize that money.
Okay,
I mean,
so.
if I can just add to that, Ryan, real quick.
Yeah.
This is a grant that has a quick turnaround time. There's no match to it, and it's corporate funding through Lowe's. It's their 100th year anniversary. So they're spending about $10 million across the country to honor 100 hometown projects, and potentially looking at doing something around veteran memorials in the towns and villages in the city. Whether or not the county could put an application in, or we go through a partner agency, all to be figured out, I guess. But something that Lindsay and I guess, will talk about in terms of need and other things that might be going on, I guess.
Right. I mean, it sounds like a good idea to at least look into, get further details on. And if you could, I think that including the chairwoman as administrator, just, keeping a big picture look on how it would fit and what it would entail for county resources, who would write it, stuff like that. If you guys all kind of collaborate and figure out how it could work, I think that would be good.
Certainly.
Great.
Look forward to it.
Thanks.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Lindsay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Take care and stay safe. Bye.
All right, so government operations has two resolutions to kick around tonight. So to give folks a little bit of background on these. The first one is for the operations officer for the sixth floor support staff that we put into the budget to help with the chairperson having some support managing a $150 million corporation and not having to do it all his or herself. In this case, that would be Aileen working tirelessly and trying to keep everything on the rails. It might be beneficial to start moving that forward. The second portion of that is going to be secretary to the chairperson. That's in just kind of a executive assistant. We do have more information on these. There's a presentation that will be done by Jen tonight. Jen Marshall will have more information and she'll have stuff she's pulled up on the screen. I have sent documents as well that Jen has forwarded along, including what the sixth floor legislative staff and budget looked like. I think it was circa 2016, heading up to 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And then an org chart as well, and what the budgets looked like. So she'll go over all this. I'll just give a quick primer again and kind of go from there. Jen, if you want to go, that would be great.
Thanks, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. Ryan, I think you did an outstanding job of a prelude to what I'm going to talk about. So thank you. First of all, the two resolutions are, as Ryan said, the position of an operations officer for county administration. And the second is the secretary to the chairperson position. The secretary to the chairperson is a position that we've had in the past. It does currently exist. So it would be just authorization to fill it. It was funded with the 2021 budget. So maybe we want to take that one first and have any questions for that. It's a pretty straightforward position. The salary for it is also currently in the graded system as a grade 4 in the part 4 of the non-bargaining compensation plan. So the minimum salary would be 45,000. It could go up to an additional 4,000 on that, which would be the 10%. Anything above that would have to come back and ask for legislative approval. Questions about that position first?
And I don't see any questions at the moment, but well, I do have one from Tim. But you might want to go through both of these, Jen.
Together?
Together and just kind of give us, you know, the overview of how they kind of intermingle, what they looked like previously, what they look like now. And you know, kind of maybe even the org chart would be helpful there.
Sure. If you could put up the current structure. There you go. Okay, right now, you currently have several executive assistant as well as administrative positions that supported the county administrator. And that county administrator position is vacant. We're not looking at this time to fill that position. The suggestion is to have an operations officer position that reports directly to the chair of the legislature and then subsequently all of the legislators. And that operations officer would not oversee all of the county departments. It would be in conjunction with the chair of the legislature. So we would not fill the county administrator, and we would not fill an executive assistant, an administrative assistant. And the confidential secretary that currently exists actually does more of the accounts payable and purchasing. So that position would go under the director of purchasing and work with the treasurer's office as well as the director of purchasing. So those positions would all be eliminated. And then if you could go to the proposed structure, the two positions in the blue are what we're looking to add. Questions about that?
I have one.
Sure.
So Jen, is the secretary to the chairperson based on a part-time or full-time chair position?
It's for both. It could be either one. That person, the secretary to the chairperson, would be a full-time position to the chair of the legislature, whether or not the chair of the legislator is a full-time salary or part-time salary.
Okay.
Your chair of the legislature, as well as all of you legislators, are considered full-time.
Right.
So that wouldn't change. It would just be the salary for the chair of the legislator is what
Well,
you.
so I'm just, so if we ended up at some time, whether it was just for one season or 10 seasons, with a part-time chair position, that would still translate into the same amount of responsibilities for that secretary?
I would imagine that secretary is going to be support for all of the county administration. So also the operations officer, as well as the budget director and any of the legislators as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question from Timmy.
Jen, nice work. What I'm thinking of as a business person, this structure here costs a certain amount of money compared to the one that was on the screen before. Do we know what the total cost running these operations, or the one versus the other in cost? And
so
I
sorry.
know I know that Chris Petrus at one time, when he was the head of government, or what was it? Anyways, but he's talking about a county exec. Now, is our form of government more efficient in getting resources from the state and federal government? I know that the county exec in Syracuse has, you know, been on a plane and gone to Google and done some great things. And recently he brought back more money for the Onondaga city schools. So as a legislator and, you know, I've been around for a little bit, you know, a weak mayor versus a strong mayor versus a county exec versus, you know, just a chair or the county administrator and stuff, you know, which form is more effective? I think that our body should look at first and then look at the cost of how we want to rearrange that.
Tim, I think that you as a legislative body have a lot of decisions that you're going to need to make over the next couple of years as far as what you think is going to be the best structure for county government, whether it be a charter, whether it be a county executive. But currently, we need structure now. Those decisions are not going to be made soon. It's going to take at least a couple of years to go through that process. So I had Lynn Marinelli put together a budget so you could see over the last 5 years what you've spent on county administration. If you can pull that up. If you can see, so this is two departments together, the legislative department as well as the county administrator's department. It's broken up into two sections and then it's totaled at the bottom. And you can see in 2019, there was, 2019 was considerably larger amount, and that was salary increases. We put a new purchasing director on, and as well as added an executive assistant position. In 2020, the administrator was not hired, but it was budgeted, but we didn't budget for the executive assistant. And we don't plan on budgeting for that executive assistant position. And then in 2021, we have budgeted for 3/4 of a salary of a county administrator, which we'd like to use for an operations officer, and then one secretary to the chair, full-time as well. Does that help, Tim?
Yes, thank you for this is what the taxpayers want to see, is what they're.
Yep. What we're actually spending.
Yep.
Jen, could I ask a question? It's Elaine.
Sure.
You kind of went around that, but it was my understanding that even as we go to look at the long-term form of government, whether we should get into the charter business or not, there has to be an appointment of a charter commission. There has to be a lot of decisions made on how that would look, if that's really the majority will of the legislature at the time. This is an opportunity to try to get some additional supports in the administration of the county that, you know, that would kind of be there in the interim of making those final decisions. That's sort of what you were talking about, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that having this operations officer in conjunction with the legislature would be an excellent resource to help you make those decisions.
And when you look at this is, you know, for the sense that we're spending more on the administration of the county. That's classically not true in this case at this point.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, and this is excellent information. I mean, you know, it kind of gives us an overview both financially and what it would look like to be able to have this type of structure in place if we were to move forward with it. You know, one of the reasons for bringing these resolutions forward was for, you know, getting all of these questions kind of out into the open and having an open discussion about it. You know, I think we've heard some really good feedback tonight. And, you know, I'm interested to see, I guess, what, you know, Mark Strong has to say. I know I've talked with him on this a little bit, and even Hans or Trish, you know. Mark, I think you're up here.
Let's see. Ah, there I go. Well, I mean, I'm taking this all in. You know, at this point, I'm just kind of, I don't want to say I'm speechless. I'm just not sure, you know, what the best avenue to go is. And I agree with what they've got on the screen at the moment, as far as the operations officer and the secretary. I'm assuming that's the great way to go. I'm still a little green at this, so if that's what they want to do, I guess I'm going to support it.
Okay, great. I appreciate those words. You know, Hans, how about yourself? I don't know if you're here, if you want to say anything about them, or Trish too.
I have some comments too, Ryan. I'm supporting these positions as well. I think it's remarkable if you look at the current structure and the number of vacancies at the top of our county government, that we've been operating and functioning as well as we have through the pandemic. I think there's a need for immediate support on the 6th floor. I think it's gone a long time without it, and I think that's a testament to, you know, in large part to our chair and her commitment and the work and time she's put into it. As the current confidential secretary position, as Jen said, it's really split between duties, and it's not functioning really fully to support that position. And so you can't look at it as a full position. I do think that a basic secretary, what we're calling secretary to the chairperson, I think that's baseline administrative support that we don't have now that we should have. The operations officer, I also think that's a key critical position for any organization that is the size of ours. I looked at the CGR report in terms of thinking about this because there is a huge section in there about the administrative structure and different options. You know, and one of those includes adding a deputy. In this case, this position reminds me of that. I think that there's similar titles that it was compared against that are comparison titles for a deputy administrator. And I think that this position adds that capacity that is recommended in that report, and I feel frankly is needed for an organization of our size. I think it's important to look at the costs and the cost comparisons, but you know, this is not something we should skimp on. We should be investing in the management of county operations. It's grown to be, you know, it's a significant $160 million budget with 700 plus employees. These positions are not out of line in my opinion. So I do support them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Trish. I guess the last up is Hans, and then we'll look for a motion. Um, I know he's there. I don't- Maybe he doesn't have anything to say. Okay, so,
Wait a minute.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah, hi.
Ryan,
Yes, I can hear you.
Ryan, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not necessarily opposed to this yet, but I think it's a little early to institute these positions. So I'm gonna vote no, and I'm out of here too. My company has come, I made arrangements, and this meeting's gone way too long. It's supposed to start at 5:30, not at 6. So good night and goodbye, everybody.
Wait, Hans, before you go, can you just stay on for 5 more minutes, so we can vote on these and adjourn the meeting?
Okay.
All right, great. So let's take a motion on these, resolutions.
I'll move them.
By Trish,
I'll second it. Strong.
second by Mark. Any discussion on, GO 1 or 2 as a bundle? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that looks like it's 3-1. They passed. We'll move on to Ways and Means. We'll skip the executive session tonight. It wasn't overly important, and we can wait for it next month. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn so Hans can go about his company.
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Second it.
All right, motion by Trish, second by
Mark.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, everybody, thank you so much. Committee is adjourned. Have a great night.